This is the new BYD Atto 3, and it's a little bit like Tom Cruise, because on the outside it seems perfectly normal, but in some ways it is quite weird. Now in this video I'm going to tell you why, as I talk you around the exterior, show you the inside, see how practical it is, try its technology, and of course take it for a drive. I'm going to launch it as well, see how quick it is from 0 to 60 miles an hour. Because I'm Matt Watson, and you're watching Carwow. Buy, sell, Carwow. I'm going to start off this video by explaining to you who BYD are. So they're a Chinese car manufacturer. In fact, they're one of the biggest Chinese car manufacturers. But they also produce electrical components, which are probably in your smartphone. BYD stands for Build Your Dreams. Right, hopefully there's a badge delete option. Anyhow, the design of the car is pretty nice. This part sort of reminds me of a Cupra Born, and then when you move around the side, this part sort of reminds me of a Volkswagen ID.4. But the rest of the car is a bit like an SUV you'd find on Grand Theft Auto. It's not bad looking though, it's neat and tidy. Choosing which colour to go for is dead easy. There's only 5 options. Wheel sizes, they're all 18 inches, and that design. There's 3 trim levels, but from the exterior they all look the same, like this. It's fine, it's nice. Bit generic, but fine. Anyway, prices. It starts from £36,000. Now, if you want to compare the price of lots of different cars and see offers from dealers, click on the pop-out banner up there, or follow the link in the description below to go to Carwow. You can also sell your current car through Carwow. You just upload some photos, give a brief description, then dealers all across the country will bid on your car. It's easy. Now, if you'd like to do all that at a later date, just simply Google "Help Me Carwow" and we will help you change your car. Well, the exterior of the BYD Atto 3 is generic. The interior is anything but, and this is where things start to get a little bit Tom Cruise weird. So the design is supposed to mimic a gym. These are supposed to be dumbbells. Don't know what this shapy stuff has to do with a gym. It actually reminds me of something. It reminds me of a character in Return of the Jedi, that weird kind of like fishy looking alien that helps Lando Calrissian fly the Millennium Falcon. Anyhow, what is pretty amazing is this big screen. So it comes on the top of the range car, this 15-inch screen. You get a 12-inch screen on models low down in the range. They all do the same thing though, so it's fairly easy to use and it's responsive, it's nice and bright. But it does this little party piece. Fancy it portrait? No problem, sir. I don't think I'll bother having it portrait though, because it sort of blocks a bit of your view there. So I'd stick with it in landscape. If you don't like the infotainment system, you can just use Apple CarPlay, and while Android Auto isn't available yet, it will be as an over-the-air update. Good job that's big, because your digital driver's display is rather small. But there's something odd about it. It seems a little bit slanted that way. Let's do my head in a bit. See what's also done my head in about this car. So while the materials feel pretty good in places, actually really good, nice and solid, that centre console, and better than the equivalent Volkswagen product, there are a few bits that aren't quite so great. For instance, when I was altering the seating position and the position of the wheel, the plastics under here are so scratchy, it actually really hurt my thumb on them. The seating position is actually all right with enough adjustment. And then there's the plastics on the door handle. Well, you've got this nice soft leather there. The seam along here just seems like some kind of child's toy. And they tried to be unique and freaky with some of the features, such as the door handles, this weird rocker to open the doors. However, when it comes to practicality, it's less odd. So underneath here you have some decent storage. There's some good sized cup holders here, and I like this look. So you can have it deep, or there's a little kind of like bit to raise it up like that if you don't want it so deep. Say if you've got like a smaller cup of coffee. There's some more storage here with your wireless charging. Then you've got a okay sized glove box. Plus, quite a useful bit of storage underneath here, together with your USB sockets. I think there's normal USB and USB-C, can't see from here, and a 12-volt charger. That's pretty normal. What's less normal is the gear selector, which is a bit more like the throttle on an airplane, or maybe the throttle on the Millennium Falcon. Oh yes, we've come full circle. Here in the back seats, there's a decent amount of knee room, good amount of foot space, and you can stretch out underneath the seat in front. Headroom, it's a little bit tight, and I'm not the tallest. Probably doesn't help that you've got this glass roof. However, it's standard, and it is nice and big. Now, if you need to carry 3 people at once, yeah, it's better actually here in the middle. There's a bit more room because of the glass roof. However, the body isn't the widest, so it's a bit of a squeeze in terms of shoulder room. However, if you want to carry 3 people in the back at once, you might be better off with the Kia Niro EV. And if you want to see my full in-depth video review of that car, click on the pop-out banner up there for the link in the description below. Now, when it comes to carrying children, you've got baby seats, they fit quite easily here because the ISOFIX anchor points are very accessible, and there's plenty of space even for a bulky rear-facing child seat. So some features that I'm going to show you here in the back. We have some pockets on the seat backs and some smaller ones there, obviously for your mobile phone. Speaking of which, you have 2 choices of USB port. You've got normal USB and then you've got USB-C. What other features can I tell you about back here? Oh yeah, that. And before I tell you about that, let's check out the boot. The load capacity is 440 litres, which is a little bit down compared to its key competitors, but not so much that it really matters. And it's quite a practical square boot. There's hardly any low lip to lift things over, so it's still easy to slide things in and out. And when you fold down the rear seats to carry larger items, the good news is they lie completely flat, so it's dead easy to just slide things straight to the front. Now, obviously this is an electric car, let's check out the front boot. So underneath the bonnet you have a carefully considered recessed space there for soft bags and the like. Yeah, look, perfect. It's totally designed to go there. That's probably not a good idea, is it? Why don't they just actually do something with that space and like fill it out so that you could use it as a front boot? Anyway, that brings me on to 5 annoying things about this new Build Your Dreams Atto 3. There's these elasticated strings for the door bins to hold the bottle in place, and they do work, look. Now, they're actually a bit of a gimmick because they're designed to be like guitar strings so that you can play them. That could get annoying when your kids are just driving you mad playing the guitar strings, and it's even worse if they put a bottle in there, because then it'll be like this. Shut up! Shut up! I've told you to shut up! You can't get lumbar support on the front seats on any model, which is a bit odd considering you can get electric seats. I thought they'd have included that. Shame. There's no little guides or retainers for the rear seat belts, so when you fold the seat backs down, they go like that, get behind there, you put it back up, and it's snag, and da 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 da. And it's not that hard to figure out, car makers, right? It's not that hard. Stop this from happening. It's like 2023. Well, it's great that the doors cover the sills, which means that they don't get dirty, so when you get in and out, you don't get muck all over the back of your jeans. They don't seem to be sealed at the front, so if you go through muddy puddles and stuff, you get all the crap just gathering in the bottom part of the door. Look at all this. Look at all that. Blech. The boot release is really low down, and this part gets covered in grime if it's bad weather. Then when you open the boot, you get dirt on your fingers. Also, the reversing camera is low down right next to the boot release, and that gets covered in grime, and it doesn't have any washer system. However, that does bring on to 5 good things about this BYD. The quality of the reversing camera and the surround view camera is brilliant. Plus you have a 3D mode, look at this. So you can whiz around the car just like in a very expensive BMW. Oh, I want to show you this as well. Transparent mode, so you can actually see what you're driving over. You get this special liner for the boot, which is handy if you have a dirty dog that you need to carry in there. Also, underneath the false floor, there is room for your charging cable shenanigans. And my favourite thing of all, even enough space, come on, the low cover, which means on this occasion it isn't getting yeeted. There's something called rhythm reactive ambient lighting. What that means is that the lights around the speakers will actually pulsate and change colour in time to the music. So let's play a bit of drum and bass. Oh yes, it's like I'm at a rave in my electric car. Anyway, let's stop the music because I don't want to have a copyright infringement. There's ISOFIX anchor points on the front passenger seat, which is perfect if you want to have your baby next to you. I want my mummy. You can turn the car on remotely using the key fob, say from your bedroom window, so that you can have it pre-conditioned, so the air conditioning set your ideal temperature for when you get into it. Perfect if it's really hot outside or really cold outside. The BYD Atto 3 is available with just one motor option, and it's mounted on the front axle, so it's front wheel drive, and it puts out 201 horsepower. There's also only one battery option, so that is a 60 kilowatt hour battery, which is good for a range apparently of 260 miles, but we'll find out about that a little later on. In terms of charging, you have 150 kilowatt DC charging, which will charge this thing to about 80% full in half an hour, and you have AC charging. The entry-level model just gets a 7 kilowatt charger, which is fine for at your house, but the top two specs get 11 kilowatt charging, which you can use a faster AC charger if you have one nearby. If you want to find out what my favourite spec of the BYD Atto 3 is, I've actually configured it using the carwow configurator. Click the link in the pop-out banner or follow the link in the description below to see exactly what I chose. Anyway, let's drive this thing. So the first thing to note is that over bumps, the suspension is nice and soft, really nice and soft. I like that. I also like the visibility forward. The low dash and sloping bonnet means you get a great view of the road ahead. What's not so good though is the view out the back window. Not very good. Nor is this pillar, it's very fat. Look how fat that pillar is, creates a huge blind spot, that does. Bit annoying. Not going to fault the steering while you're driving around town. It's nice and light, which is good when you're sort of just negotiating cars and all various things that's parked up. Then there's a turning circle, which is also good. 10.7 metres. Better than most of its competitors, which means that U-turns should be quite easy. Am I going to eat my words now? No, look, this is so easy. Yeah. There is something that I'm noticing though. Oh dear. Yeah, it's not that. Go on, reverse it, matey. I've got to fit through that gap. Go on, you can do it. Oh, I'm hassling him. Thank you. Good stuff. It's this noise. So you've got the pedestrian warning noise that is emanating from the front of the car just to warn people so you don't knock them down. You know, the electric cars don't have engines whirring away, so you have to warn pedestrians of their approach. But the noise is constantly with you, and so there's this like eerie whoo when you're driving around town. Makes you just feel a bit nervous unnecessarily. Other than that though, at slower speeds, this car is pretty good. However, things do change a bit when you start going faster. At least that noise will stop when I start going faster. So I'm at 40, I'm going to accelerate now up to 70. It's all quite relaxing and serene. Throwing the throttle, pickup is pretty decent, but then at around 62 miles an hour, you get this. And at 70 it's even worse. That's a lot of wind noise. So it reminds me of being on holiday in a caravan on a cliff top in Wales, where the wind would just batter the caravan and keep you awake at night. Yeah, don't bother going on a Welsh holiday. Just get yourself a BYD and drive at 70 miles an hour. Give you a similar kind of effect. Now that brings me on to the efficiency. So this car's supposed to have a range of 260 miles. It's averaging over 1,000 miles. 31.8 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. Do the maths, that's 3.14 miles per kilowatt hour. Then when you multiply that up by the car's battery size, you are talking a real world range this car is achieving of 190 miles, which is about 73% of what it's supposed to be. Not the worst of any electric car I've driven, but something at this price needs to be getting over 200 miles. Bit disappointing. The last thing to do is to try to build your dreams on a twisty road, so I'm going to put it into sports mode. Though it is a bit telling that the press pack, as journalists you're given a press pack with all the information on the car, all it says is that the car has a sports mode, doesn't say what it does. And from where I'm sitting, it doesn't seem to do anything other than change the word to sport on there instead of normal. What's the point of that? Now, that brings me on to the main problem with this car. You see, while the suspension is nice and soft in town, when you're going quicker over lots of bumps, it just never seems to settle. It's very busy. It sort of reminds me of when Brits go on holiday to hot countries and they walk on the hot sand, and they always have to do like about 100 steps instead of like one step, just to keep their feet off the hot sand. So you're like dancing around like that, not really making that much progress. And that's what this car is doing down this road. Another thing about it, the controls. So it does this weird thing when you press the brake pedal just a bit when you're going quite quickly to slow down, then you lift off. Obviously the first part of braking, it's using regeneration and charging the battery to slow you down, but when you lift off the brake, it doesn't actually stop that braking effect immediately. It takes like a second. There's a delay to it. There's also a delay to the throttle. Look, I'm going to press the throttle about a third of the way. Look, that's me actually going light out on the throttle and nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. Finally, there's the steering. I mean, it is just so remote. It's a bit like you're steering the Mars rover back at NASA's base in Houston, Texas. Oh, it's a real shame actually, because this thing goes around corners pretty well, but you have no encouragement to drive it quickly because you don't feel like you can communicate that well with the car. There's not much of a conversation between you and it because the controls just aren't that great. It's like you're speaking it in English and it only really understands Mandarin. I'll tell you what, an MG4 is definitely better to drive. And if you want to see my full in-depth video review of that car, click on the pop-out banner up there or follow the link in the description below. BYD says this car can do 0 to 60 miles an hour in 7.3 seconds. But what's the reality? I'm going to find out with my specialist timing gear up here. And for what it's worth, I've selected sport mode just for no other reason than to get some placebo benefit, maybe. Anyway, here we go. A little bit of wheel spin, nicely controlled though, and we're off. Power building relatively decently. The time's good. The time is quite good. 7.01. We'll take that. So then, what's my final verdict on the BYD Atto 3? Should you avoid it? Should you consider it? Should you shortlist it? Or should you just go right ahead and buy it? Well, I reckon you should consider the BYD Atto 3. It's a decent enough car. It's just a little bit weird in places, including the way that it drives. Also, there's plenty of other good electric cars available right now, so it's up against some stiff competition. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like. Let me know if you agree with my verdict in the comments below. Click on those windows there for some more videos, and on that box there to go to CarWow to sell your car the easy way. Just upload some photos, give a brief description, then dealers all across the country will bid on your car. Thanks for watching.